So, Jim, show me pictures of your Tomahawk missile.
Oh, I wish I could, but that was a fake one, man. That was all plastic, man.
Oh, no. Trump said today that everybody's got one.
Oh, I actually had one when I worked at a defense contractor that I got to walk around the office with one day, and the launcher, so I could make pictures of it.
So,
As you didn't expect that.
I was talking to my mother earlier today, and she said, "Did you hear what Trump said his rationale for going to war with Iran right now was?" And my response, and I was not trying to be funny, was which one? Because in like 10 different rationales. But have you heard the latest?
No, I hadn't heard that.
He said that they asked him why now, basically. And he said because Steve Witnikoff and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law and a former real estate guy that he knew, that were the ones, believe it or not, that were working with Iran and trying to come up with a plan to get rid of their thing, said that it would be a good time.
Doesn't surprise me.
No.
I mean, and now he's backpedaling today, right? It's this whole, oh gosh, I didn't really mean to have a war, because he's seeing his numbers tank. He's seeing the impact on the party. The MAGA team is disintegrating, and his support for MAGA support is gone.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, he called into CBS, what was it, yesterday or the day before? I guess it was Sunday when gas was, climbing up, when a barrel of oil was up like $120 or something like that. And he called in and he goes, "Yeah, I think it's time to stop this," and everything else in the market. And gas went, oil prices went down and the market went back up. And then, of course, he immediately started into the same old nonsense about, regime change and.
But the Dow's at 50,000. Welcome to Life in the Baggage Claim and our short-form video content series. We produce new episodes weekly and understand that not everyone can spend 50, 60 minutes listening to an entire episode. These shorts are your ticket to get the best of the weekly episode. So they confirmed the new Ayatollah, whatever they call it. I think that's what he is.
No,
Right?
it's Ayatollah. You're correct.
Yeah, the new Ayatollah has been confirmed. It's the brother, right, or son of the previous supreme leader,
right, and
who has no international experience.
Well,
and what does Trump say? He won't last long.
Well, all right. So I promised myself today that I'm not going to Trump bash. I'm just going to speak my truth.
Well, that's what we're doing, though, right? I mean, you can't help but have truth in Trump bashing. There's TTT.
I'm not saying they won't overlap in the Venn diagram. I'm just saying that's not
TITB.
It is not my intention today. And this is not about Trump. This is, well, maybe it is, but it's about everybody in his administration. Everybody talking about war and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately, I know he makes the decisions. And you and I both agree, neither one of us are doctors. You and I both agree that he's at least in the beginning of dementia. So I think he's easily led. But the bottom line is this. As my father used to say, I'm a dumb old country boy. I don't know much about much. But I know that the leader of Iran is not just a leader. He is a spiritual leader of that country. So, for example, you can get rid of, and I don't mean kill, you can get rid of Barack Obama, you can get rid of Joe Biden, you can get rid of Donald Trump, you can get rid of Bill Clinton, go all the way back, get rid of all the presidents. And even like we saw on January 6th, people can be passionate about that. And some people feel the 2020 election was stolen, but things go on. It's not ideological as much as it's, when I say cult of personality, I'm not just talking about Trump. People get attached to leaders, but it can go on. But when you kill the spiritual leader of a country, of a very, very devout country, to think for a second, people are going to go, "Yay, he's a liberator." Now, they did that in Iraq at first because Saddam was not a spiritual leader. He was a despot and he was a dictator. But you see it in the streets in Iran now, death to America, because even though this new Khomeini, and I can't remember his first name, I would butcher it anyway. I'm not trying to be rude, but I would. They say he's even more hardline than his father was. And his father was like 86. He wasn't going to live forever. Maybe, just maybe, he dies naturally and a more moderate leader comes in. But no. So we basically, without meaning to, installed his son, who is even more hardline, and then we killed his son's wife and kids. And of course, that just made all the Iranians go, "God, these Americans are fantastic." And I
wait. So you're telling me the video I saw on TV this week with a bunch of people from Iran dancing to YMCA. Wasn't that? It was false. It was fake. Side note, folks, it was fake.
Here's the funny thing about that. Well, because I know people there are some people listening to this right now going, well, Chuck, maybe that's not fake. Do either one of us believe for a second there aren't X number of Iranian people that are so happy that, at least for a minute, that the oppressive regime was, maybe not the YMCA part, but do we believe that there are Iranian people who are hopeful that this will actually turn over the government ultimately and get them somebody more moderate? Sure. And if you don't believe that, look at the idiots who stormed the Capitol. They still believe, then, and most of them still believe that the freaking election was stolen. So, yes, there are always going to be people, but the vast majority, I mean, if we had a spiritual leader in this country, and I don't think we do, but if we did, and that person also ran the country and was a
You mean Jerry Falwell's not the spiritual leader of America? What happened there?
He's been dead for like 20 years, but still. Oh, you mean Junior?
Point taken.
Not Junior. God, no. Junior. Folks, I live in Virginia. If you haven't heard all the stuff about Jerry Falwell Jr., look it up. It's out there. But he won't his daddy, as we would say down in the holler. But no, it just fascinates me that people, I gotta believe, Jim, that some of the people in Trump's administration are at least intelligent. Maybe not geniuses, but intelligent. And if you and I can sit here and go, well, shit, we saw this coming. Again, if you took out Putin, if you took out Kim Jong-un, is he in charge? I'm not trying to be funny.
I don't know anymore. It's some Kim Jong.
If we took
no disrespect,
if we took them out for some reason, a good swath of that population would be like, woo, now get the fuck out of here, quit bombing our cities, but you got rid of the ugly. You got rid of the ugly leader, but not a spiritual leader. You just can't. Yeah. I mean, just for example, let's say
we've tried many times.
Oh, I know. What was the Bill Graham? I know he's been gone for years and years.
Talk about Waco for a second.
Well, no, I'm saying I don't know how people feel about him, but he was a spiritual leader. If a foreign country had taken him out for political means, look what happens. They flew 2 planes into the Twin Towers, and we were ready to level the Middle East. Like most rank and file Americans were like, short of nukes, let's do this. So why would we think it's so odd that we kill their supreme leader, who also happens to be their spiritual leader, and they would be like, oh, yeah,
you might also have nukes.
Come on in. We'll greet you as liberators, because that works so well in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, and then, so folks, for you who are joining us at this moment, we did try to have an episode earlier this week that we recorded, and we had technical difficulties with our podcast recording company.
Jim, we're doing a speak, folks. A lot of double speak.
And I was the constant echo in Chuck's head, in my head too. Maybe we'll try to release the transcript from that recording if we can make it work. You can at least see what we talked about, because it's not worth putting the audio out because there's too many of me and not enough of Chuck.
Well, and it would also drive you insane, because literally every word Jim said was doubled.
Yeah.
So
I was doing a lot of doubles.
We love hearing Jim's voice, but not doubled.
So anyways, we did do this, and we're doing it now midweek as another version of this. I think we both toned down from Saturday. We were kind of sort of charged up Saturday morning.
Yes, we were.
A lot had happened. Kristi Noem was let go, The world had changed real fast, let alone war. We were seeing a lot of things happen. So,
well, and the Kristi Noem thing.
It's been, as I said on Saturday, it's been a week, and it hasn't been a week yet.
You know what's crazy is I think you could say that 7 days a week and it would be pertinent.
Yes.
No, and the Kristi Noem thing, we talked a little bit on Saturday about the fact that the guy that Trump tapped to take over,
Mark
Wayne Muller. Well, he came out and he's like, I'm willing to take a bullet and go to war and with this and that and blah, blah, blah. And somebody on X was like, dude, you're a plumber. You didn't serve. You could have. You have zero police or experience.
No, but he has investments in making this thing work the way he wants to make it work.
I know, right? But it's just, so you and I have talked about this. So the DEI thing, and what I mean by that is the right losing their minds over DEI and Charlie Kirk and all of that, going, if I get on an airplane as a black pilot, I have to wonder if they actually can fly a plane or if it's just because they're black. People, the right doesn't want to talk about him saying that, but he did. Absolutely. And that's not an out of context drop. He fucking said it. But the ultimate DEI, so to flip that back on him, first of all, Trump's entire cabinet is DEI. I mean, I'm like, well, Pete Hegseth, he served for either 4, 6, or 8 years. I can't remember. And thank you for your
What does
service.
that stand for? Dumb, excessive, and incompetent DEI
Yeah,
in relation to Trump?
yeah, pretty much. Well, no, I mean, Hegseth, let's say it was 8 years. Thank you for your service, sir. But if that makes you qualify to be Secretary of Defense, there's about 100,000
You mean the
ex-military.
War Department bro isn't really like qualified to be a War
Right.
Department bro?
And then Linda McMahon has zero educational background. Anyway, I don't know if you heard this, Jim. You probably didn't because I caught it on the fly. This weekend, Trump made a quiet, secret appointment. Now it's not quiet now, but I mean he did it with under the radar. Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, is now on the Air Force Academy Board of Visitors, which means that she and others are in charge of morale, discipline, curriculum, and fiscal affairs for the Air Force Academy. I can't imagine in what I have seen of her biography anything that makes her qualified for that job other than, she smiles and Trump.
I mean, let's just go down the list of cabinet members that fit that same definition. Levitt. I mean, it's every one of them that's had their moment in the sun is now finding, as is typical in a Trump organization, they're ushered out of the sun because when you start to look brighter than the boss and bigger than the boss gets rid of you because the boss wants to be this whole thing. I mean, who else shows up to a memorial for dead soldiers wearing his own merch to honor them?
Well, state news media showed an old one.
I know, to make sure that we could see that.
Oh, we got it wrong. It's like, no, you didn't. Don't even play that. You have dozens of editors who make lots and lots of money every year. You did not. You did that on purpose, so he didn't look bad.
Hiding everything.
The crazy thing when you talk about his cabinet, and I'm not going to suggest that I know everybody on his cabinet. I just know the loudest knucklehead. The only one who's, in my opinion, who is even close to being qualified is Marco Rubio. Because correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't he on the Foreign Affairs Committee? So at least, I mean, when
he's done stuff.
Well, but I mean, yeah, when you think about it, if you're a senator and you're on the Foreign Relations Committee for 10 years or whatever, other than being military, which is rare, who do you usually make Sec Def? And Secretary of State. So I don't think that's that out there. The only problem is that he has sold his soul because he thinks, and I don't know if you read about this, but evidently last week there was a Republican donor dinner or something at Mar-a-Lago, and Trump literally pitted Marco Rubio against J.D. Vance. He asked the room in front of both of those men who they thought should be the next president.
Yeah, it killed Vance.
Marco Rubio.
Yeah, but subsequently he's also killing Vance.
No, oh yeah,
a lot of stuff knocking him out of ranks too. Yeah, so
nobody likes Vance.
Neither one of them is going to go anywhere.
Right, but Marco Rubio was the one that the donors were all like, yes. And I think after all of this, and
he ought to resign and walk away.
Well,
he had to regain his composure that he used to have and his ability to be independent that he used to have,
right,
and speak for things that were not in the party lines that he believed in. He should, I'm not a fan of Mark Rubio, but I'm also not just concerned with him. I think he has potential to be something. And I think he brought more centrist than anybody else.
I don't know if I agree with you anymore. I would have said I agreed with you. No, seriously. At one time I would have agreed with you, but the bloodlust he has for Cuba is, I use that term honestly. The bloodlust he has.
No, you're fair on that. That's fair.
Is fucking spooky. And I know
but I think they're all doing these things. They're planting what Trump wants. He wants to hear who's next, right? Ecuador, Cuba.
No, everything I read came to Marco Rubio because his parents or grandparents, I can't remember, forced out of Cuba after Batista fell and all of that.
I don't know all that, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, he's had a heart for Cuba for years. Listen to him talk if you can stand it. Listen to him talk when he talks about Cuba. Yeah, that's a personal vendetta, dude. That's not nation building or whatever. He's pissed. True. It's weird. And I agree completely. Purposely starving an entire country to get back at the leader of the country. I mean, think about it this way. He's Cuban. He's Cuban American, but he's Cuban. So he's literally starving his own people to make a point. Almost rather see not shock troops, but special forces go in and kill Castro. I don't in any way, shape, or form mean that, but then starve out a population. It's just like what we're doing in Iran. We did it in Iraq. We did it in Afghanistan. We bomb the shit out of cities. We make citizens suffer. And then we say, well, it's because the guys who are running the country are bad. Well, what are we? What are we if we do that?
Mary Trump, right? Is that the one who's estranged, right?
The niece.
Came out this week with the whole comment. She says, Donald is forecasting again as he projected that Iran would have nuclear weapons and things would get dangerous because of crazy people. He's forecasting what he's going to do. And I'm just like, oh God, that's the one I don't want true at this point, right? That's
Yep.
the one thing. But this man is obsessed with nuclear weapons and what they can do right. He's been obsessed since he thought we should shoot one at the hurricane that took Puerto Rico out, so he's going to find a way. I have a strange feeling to use one of those if his generals and government doesn't stop.
Well, it's interesting you said that in a conversation with a friend of mine who we've been good friends for 40 odd years and we haven't seen each other for a while, which is weird because he lives not far from here, but life gets in the way. And I said, I did not vote for Ronald Reagan either time. I disagree with a lot of things that Ronald Reagan did. I disagree with a lot of things that HW did. Trump, leave Trump out of this for a moment. It never, ever, 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 ever crossed my mind that a president would get up and just one day use the nukes to see what it looked like. But I mean this without hyperbole and without drama. It worries me to my core that Trump is that guy. Be like, well, it's just another missile. Like, just for example, like you brought it up, like, well, he's like, well, can't we shoot a nuclear weapon into a hurricane? Yes, Donald, we could do that. We have the capability to do that. But there's this stuff called radiation and nuclear fallout. And if you did it in a bunch of cloud, it would come into the U.S., you dumbass. But he just can't see beyond the end of his nose. It's like if he thinks it, he wants to do it.
It was Omen 5 that was where the president, Damien, finally becomes president of the United States and takes us into war. I mean, I think there's a foreshadowing movie. You can kind of see everything going on right now. It's almost like they watch these scripts and go, ooh, let's do that. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's like a cross, but it's like right now is like a cross between that and the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah, sure
and
enough.
if you haven't seen Idiocracy, folks, go watch it. If it doesn't scare you shitless, then I don't know.
So I loved the burn on Barron Trump that Barron for Trump that went on this week.
Oh, I know.
With the whole, Barron won't get drafted into the draft because earlier the week Trump was talking about a draft, right? He's no longer talking about it because, well, that didn't go well with everybody.
He drove it and it blew back in his face. Did you see the website? It's called Draft Barron, I think.
Yeah, it's hilariously written. It's done by one of the guys like from South Park or something, right?
Oh.
I mean, I think that this kind of stuff is what makes me happy because there's still people out there willing to go do some crazy shit to affront the president. South Park has an episode I think coming up as well that's gonna do some more damage because that's where they're at right now.
I love it.
So it's all sort of fun and laughs when you have that moment that you need that stress relief. So I always encourage everybody, listeners here, if you need a break, take a break from the news, turn it off, go watch something stupid like South Park, get a laugh,
right?
Watch J.D. Vance be Donald Trump's lover, and you'll be good for the day.
Ben, I think you and I talked about this a little bit on Saturday. And, I feel like I want to say it again because I know it's going to be incredibly unpopular for some, but I don't care anymore. The fact that we keep doing this, and by this, I mean, for those of you who aren't keeping score, Donald Trump has bombed 8 different countries since he's been president.
Or a peacetime president, yeah.
14 months, 8 different countries. Mr. America First, Mr. all of that,
Peacetime president, no wars.
Right. Well, Mr. George W. Bush for getting into wars and all of that, now doing the same shit. What has got us here, besides the fact that Trump's fucking crazy, is American exceptionalism. And I am a student of history and people and sociology, and I read everything, I study everything, and I'm a sponge. I got to know it all. I'll never know it all, but I want to. And it's so weird that we got sold this line about American exceptionalism. And I want to talk for a minute, if I can, and I would love your opinion on this too, about this whole patriot issue. You're a patriot. If you don't follow Donald Trump, you're not a patriot. You're not a real American and all this. And the main problem I have about that is in any situation, whether it's a relationship you're in with another person or work or a friend's circle or whatever, you have to face what's real and you have to try to fix what's real. And if you've made mistakes in the past, you have to own those on some level and you have to not do them again. Otherwise, the person you're with, your friends you're with, are going to stop talking to you eventually.
Yep.
So we've got to come to the realization, and I know I'm not one of those people that hates America and wants it taught in schools that Americans, especially white Americans, are bad. That's not where I'm going. But there is another end to, there is a side to that that needs to be explored. And that is, like it or not, we stole this land for brown people.
Uh-huh.
We pushed them right off the fucking continent. And in fact, and then we stuck them in the most inhospitable part of the US and said, hey, this now is yours. Isn't this great?
And then white followers of Jesus stole Jesus's identity and turned him white and fair skinned.
Correct. And then we built this country on the backs of brown
Lies.
slave labor for 400 years. Let's call it. We did. Now, there are some on the right. There's somewhere in those stupid ass red hats right now and have flags on the back of their trucks that are screaming, "You just hate white people. You hate that you're white." No, I love my country, but I can look at the things. I can look at the things we've done wrong objectively and say we can do better. That's all. I'm not saying we're a bad country. We could do things better, but here we are again trying to press our will on fucking brown people again. And it's just, I mean, Trump hasn't invaded England. He hasn't bombed France. South
I'll give him any ideas,
Africa.
Chuck.
No, I mean, I'm just saying. Well, I know everywhere he's gone has been, it's been brown people. Venezuela. I mean, let's face it. And it's just, until we all can take a collective breath and step back and say, we've done some shit. And instead of beating ourselves up about it and feeling bad about being American and bad about being white, we can learn from it and stop doing it. That's all.
So, that's where I feel like DEI was sort of doing. I feel like we were taking a moment to breathe and look at, and this is pre-Trump, right? So, and people didn't like the fact that it was in their faces, but, you sat down and you listened and you learned. You got to know your neighbor who was maybe different. You learned about the experiences. You admitted, I found myself admitting, yeah, I understood where my privilege was. I understood the white privilege I had, and I still have. And yeah, sometimes I get frustrated with people of other colors and skins and things like that because they're getting things I can't even get to. And I get the frustration people have when they get into that mode, right? It's like so-and-so's taking food benefits. They're taking jobs. I get it. I understand that you're frustrated. But we did that for so long. To say this isn't normal is bullshit because this is their normal. This is what they've lived with for hundreds of years as races and creeds and colors. White people have always had privilege, have always had the ability to walk in and be the white savior and save the day. And that's not true. We didn't save the day most of the time. We sort of took what we wanted and went from there. And I admit that's part of the lineage I come from. And I'm okay with saying we were wrong. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just makes me realize that we have some work to do to fix things. The white folks need to get out there and start changing the way things have been. And if you can't buy into that, then I'm going to tell you what, you're a racist if you can't buy into that. If you can't buy into the fact that white people need to make some reparations for the shit we've done in our lives and our former generations have done, we didn't save the world. We saved ourselves.
Well, it's interesting you said that. There's this false equivalency that's been sold by the right-wing media. I'm just going to say it, that, there's only two options. And that's either, there is no white privilege, there is no woke, everything's fine, or you fucking hate white people, what's wrong with you? And that's, we don't have to self-flagellate about the things that have happened, but
that's
we
can flagellate, not flatulate.
But no, just for example, like you said, there is white privilege. I don't care what anybody says. There's fucking white privilege, and we don't have to quote unquote give that up. We just have to spread that around to everyone. And I think that's what scares the hell out of most of these white people. Is that 2045 or whatever, white people are going to be in a minority, and I think they're afraid they're going to lose some of their privilege.
What are you saying, Chuck? You mean that a person of brown or yellow or tan skin might get in charge and then tell us we don't get something? That they elevate their own folks first? Wait, how can that be? And how do we let that happen, Chuck?
Well, see, and that's the problem. It's like, okay, so if you are a whole white person listening to this and you're scared to death that those brown people are going to take over and boy, they're going to take revenge, then take a breath and ask yourself, why would they need revenge? What has happened here? I'm serious.
There you go. Amen to that.
Well, because and it's just
same thing with women. If you're afraid of women taking over and emasculating you got to think about what's wrong with you.
Right. Well, and Louis C.K., before he fell from grace, said one of the funniest things I've ever heard. He said, there has never been a bad time in history to be a white guy. Ever. Name it. I dare you. And more importantly, even though these whiners are woke and this and that, it's Still not a bad time to be a white guy. The only thing is, I used to work with this guy, and he's a sweetheart. He really is. He's a little backwards country dude, but I was around him one day. He came in the store I was working in, and there were a couple of younger guys that I worked with, and they were talking about something. He goes, "They don't even know the rights they've lost," and I'm like, "What rights are those?" And he's like, "Well, you can't do anything anymore. You can't say anything." And I'm like, "Yes, you can't. We're just being held accountable for what we say." We should have never, and by we, I mean white men. Hey, I'm here. And white women, you're right behind us. You did it too. You enjoyed it too. No one should be able to say anything and have no responsibility. I mean, my dad taught me a long time ago when I was a little kid. You can run your mouth on the playground, but you might get punched in that mouth. Doesn't mean it's okay the person who punched you, but cause and effect, son. You know, if you run around,
Words do things.
right, if you run around with your mouth, you're going to get punched in that mouth. Same thing. Now suddenly white guys can't use the N word or the R word or whatever without everybody around them going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And that's woke, and that's what scares them. Because if they really thought for a minute what woke was, and I'm not Captain Woke, but if they really thought about what woke was, which is looking at other people's point of view before they make a decision.
Yeah, looking at someone through their eyes, not your eyes.
Right, not that. I have to think about somebody else's point of view. That's all it is, folks. That's all DEI is. Read any psychology textbook, anything like that. White guy walks into an interview, black guy walks into an interview, and the interviewer's white. Normal human bias. I'm not talking about rampant racism here. Normal human bias is we tend to move toward those who look and act like us.
Uh-huh.
So the black guy is at a deficit from the time he walks in the door. All DEI does is say
So
that,
yeah, so if you're a white person going to the job environment and you've got an Indian man interviewing you, you have a chance that he's not going to like you if there's an Indian candidate as well.
yeah, right.
And that's fine. That's how the world has worked. But if that Indian guy has been trained and learned that there's ability to be equal and look for skills, not skin color, he might give you the opportunity. Whereas a white person takes a lot harder to get those we to be able to move that needle towards being fair, right? Because it's so ingrained in everything we do in society. And I'm a fan of DE. I'm a big fan of inclusion, because the opposite of inclusion is not, So, I want people to feel like they belong. And we have done a great job of making them not feel like they belong. Well, and as being an outsider for a lot of my life, I feel that's just part of why I've been here.
Right. And the whole thing behind DEI, no matter how Fox News wants to spin it or Trump wants to spin it, the whole thing behind DEI, it doesn't say you have to hire black people. It says that you have to consider them equally for the job.
Right.
Not in your home, not in your family, but in the freaking job. Meaning 2 resumes. In a perfect world, all job applications would be resumes with no names on them. Just
no names, no addresses.
Here's number 1.
Nothing that could identify you as being from somewhere or being a male or female or being.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Numbered.
Yeah, I would love to see the hiring process change to say,
oh my God, yes.
For the first part of it, you go through this whole thing looking at skills and skills only. And you don't meet the person until you're ready to make your last decision, which is you got 2 great candidates, which are you going to take? And they come in and then you see what you've chosen. And you make a decision then, and it's already too late because you picked the right person anyhow. And that would be great if we could get there, but
This is going to sound weird. But bear with me. It's pertinent. I remember growing up, a childhood friend of mine's dad, I really liked him. He's British, really cool guy. And we were talking one day, I was 15, 16, maybe. We were sitting around a campfire. We were in Boy Scouts, and we were talking about stuff. And we were talking about education. I don't remember how it came up, but he said, "You Americans do everything backwards." And I was like, "Do tell." Like, what do you mean? He was an engineer, structural engineer. And he said, in the US, you go through 4 years of college, 7 years of college, whatever, and you learn all the theories and then you go do the job. In England, if you show that you have a proclivity toward it or something like that, they put you in the field for 2 years. You're out building bridges. You're touching the steel. You're talking to guys and
getting real world experience.
Well, you're talking to men and women who've been doing it, have forgotten more than you'll ever know. So then when you go to university and you open that book and you're looking at the theory, you're like, "Oh yeah, I remember this. I've already done this." So now instead of the theory being the reality drives the theory. And the same sort of thing, that's the same sort of thing as I look with DEI. Look at the experience before you look at the person.
I mean, it's killing me in my own job searches when you have to put all this college information in. First of all, I have to dig to remember those dates because we're talking the 80s and 90s here, right? So long time ago.
It's
And I'm thinking to myself, I've had more real world experience than college would ever teach me. And I'm a believer that all college really does is teaches you to live to a routine, stick by the routine, and deliver to the routine so that you can get done with the routine. It doesn't really teach you anything else because when you get in the real world, you realize real quick a lot of what you learned is just noise
right.
that's supplemented when you get real people telling you how things work.
I think I agree with you 100%. And I would add to that. I think I've told kids for years, because I was in education for years. I told kids for years, the main thing college does, in my opinion, is teach you how to learn. Teach you to be open to new things. So you learn how to learn. I know this sounds silly, but if you have to read 300 pages by Thursday and write a paper, and you have to learn to prioritize the reading and the writing and all of that. I think it teaches you how to learn, so that's the way I always looked at it when I had new teachers come in. I didn't know if they could do anything because they were just out of school, and yeah, they had all the theory and all the newest asbestos and everything else, but you throw them in a classroom and that's when the shit hits the fan, and they either make it or they couldn't. And I hired people before who had impeccable credentials, were smart as a whip, and could not run a classroom to save their lives because it's just
That's that my struggle has been that everything I did in my career had nothing to do with my education.
right.
Everything I did had nothing to do with what I learned in school. I learned it all on the job. And I've been a graphic artist, I've been an IT guy, I've been an administrator, I've been in all these roles. I did change manager, project manager, I really everything, right? How did I learn it? Well, I didn't learn to run budgets by going to school to be an accountant.
No,
I learned how to manage numbers, right? I
right,
didn't learn how to pick the right decisions when we're rolling out infrastructure
right,
because I knew technology. It was because I could figure out what was right and who was telling me the right things and
right,
learn how to piece it together. So
right.
it's a struggle because those of us who, I don't have the full on degrees and credentials and paperwork to go with me, you struggle when you're out looking for work because, they want basic jobs that have like a bachelor's degree. And it's like, yeah, I'm 60 years old. Do you think maybe, just maybe
Well, Jim,
I got this?
if it makes you feel any better, and it probably won't, as someone, and this is not a brag, this is the truth, someone who's got more education than probably 95% that are listening to this, it ain't any easier for me at this age. I'm telling you, it's age.
Well, age is definitely killing it right now, right? And
That's what's
part of
killing.
the premise for how we even got together to start doing some of this discussion was at this age in our lives, it should be a lot different, it feels like, than it is.
It's funny what I was just thinking about the guy saying that in America we do it backwards, and you were talking about real world and all of that. I was thinking, I don't know if you know this, and anybody who's in education knows this, but we do the dumbest thing in this country. So Jim Hout goes to college to become a teacher, right? In your last semester, that's when you do student teaching. So you've just spent 3.5 years determined to be a teacher, and I've seen this happen. And
And
then,
you go out and do it and
and
hate
then
it.
you go student teach and go, this is fucking horrible. I don't want to do this. You should do the student teaching in your second half of your first year because everybody does. You've been to college, right? In the first 2 years, everybody takes the same thing: English 101, English 201, and I mean you do a
More
little.
of the same bullshit you did in high school.
Right, but I'm saying you do a little bit different, but you really don't get into the nuts and bolts of your degree until you're basically your third year. So in my world, I want to be a teacher. Fine, let's get a semester of college under your belt, and then in the second semester, we're going to send you to student teaching. And the reason is, if you go, fuck no, you haven't lost anything.
Right.
You can change majors at that point. You're still taking all the basic courses. We'll let you use your student teaching as an elective. And then, but we wait until the last semester. And I have actually met people who got to student teaching and went, no, and completely did something different. So they basically got a BA in education for nothing.
Yeah. There's so much broken in our systems of how we work. And then, you want to talk about America being such a great place. We can't feed people. We can't educate them properly. We can't get them employed. And Lord knows we don't know how to pick government.
It's funny, not funny, haha, but it's funny. We're spending the estimates are we're spending $1 billion a day on this war, not war that we've got going on.
$12,000 to every family if we stop right now.
Yeah. So
Give
let's
that money.
say this goes on for 30 days. That's $30 billion. Yeah, we got that. Sure. And then, of course, look at it this way. So if we spend that $30 billion, we actually now have to spend 60 because we've got to replace the rockets and everything and the munitions that because we don't have boots on the ground yet, thank God. So we're really just looking at munitions. So let's say it's going to cost about $60 billion. That's no problem. Donald Trump can wake up on a Saturday morning on a whim and bomb the shit out of another country for no real reason with no real exit strategy. That's fine. but we can't find $60 billion to feed the hungry. We can't find $60 billion for, to help boost up Obama or ACA so that people can afford health insurance. That we can't find. That's not there. Jim, that would blow up the deficit. We can't do that. But we can spend $60 billion to bomb a country that's done nothing.
We're an industrial war machine. What do you want? That's what we always be.
Well, you're right. Let's take it back a step. We can find $900 million to give the top 1% a tax break. We can find that. But we can't, but we've got to cut staff benefits like Trump's punk ass in. We got 2.4 million people off of food assistance because you canceled it, not because you boosted them up or found something better. You fucking canceled it, so now they're starving.
Well, so Donald Trump comes from a background which is not about lifting people up. It's about climbing over them and then kicking them off the ladder so they can't come out. Sorry, that's what it is. That's his history.
And then pissing on them as you walk away. Yes.
And that's not against Trump. That's against that's his way. That's just everything he's ever done, right? No. He will fuck over anybody to get ahead. He's done it on every contract he's ever done. He's done it on every building he's ever done.
Cabinet members. Look, if anybody listening to this is still a Trump fan, God help you. But if you can't see that Donald Trump is just ruining the Republican Party for the midterms, like ruining it.
Like snowball.
Doesn't
it's going to be such a landslide change.
And doesn't seem to get there have been more early retirements from Congress than, was it 2013 or something like that?
But it also says something about the age of our Congress. And I think it's probably good time for some of these people to just politely walk out the door and say goodbye.
We agree, but some of these people are in their 40s and 50s. They see writing on the wall and they're like, deuces, I don't want to lose, so I'll walk away quietly because this is...
Or they're changing parties.
Well, but I mean, what they're doing, they're looking and going, this idiot is making it harder. And then to come out, was it yesterday or today, and come out and say, we really need to work on healthcare. And it's like, you ruined healthcare. If he had taken that same $900 million that he just found magically and put it into healthcare and done Medicaid for all.
Maybe if we hadn't torn the East,
we'd all be fine. We've talked about healthcare before, but damn it, I've gotten in arguments with people about this, but I stand toe to toe. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. It's the one thing you can't do without. I know food and water, but it's the one thing. Jim Howe and Chuck Longerbeam can live in a fucking refrigerator box and go through life. Not happily, but we can go through life. To have a heart attack, you got to go to the fucking hospital. That's it. I mean, it's that or die. And no one should have to think for a split second, am I going to go bankrupt because I'm going to the hospital for this heart attack? It's nuts.
It's been a really good theme on The Pit this season. It's a show, and it's about the emergency room at Pittsburgh Hospital.
Yeah.
It's a great show. It's actually been hailed as how it's so true to life because of the way it's done. I call it the 24 of the ER because you're living an hour every episode. And one of the things they covered was this whole, I can't afford the treatment. So therefore, the doctors and the nurses worked hard to make it work.
Right? With diabetes.
Expensive. Yeah, it was diabetes.
He still walked out.
It was still expensive and he walked off. And I think that's a sad reality for folks. We live in a country that's got a lot of money. You don't spawn billionaires this season unless there's something to spawn them from.
Correct.
Well, they're all taking advantage of winning their tax cuts and their ways to rip us all off. If you could stop one billionaire and get what did Bernie say this week? If you could just get 5% of their income tax, you could solve most of our financial problems.
It paid for everything. It would pay for 5%. I think, what do you say? It would pay for free college, Medicare for all, and there was one other thing. And it's just like, oh no, we can't do that. That would be an undue burden on those poor people. I don't give a fuck who you are. If Jim Houck only makes $450 million this year instead of 500, fuck you if that's a problem. And I'm being serious.
Well, and there comes a point where what is 50,000 in the billions you have?
That's what I'm saying.
What is 100,000? What is even a million at something?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, and this is, I have a friend who for a while was all into the flat tax. And I'm like, the flat tax is bullshit. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because it puts an undue burden on the lower incomes. He goes, no, it's fair because everybody's paying the same thing. I'm like, but they're not. Even if there were no loopholes, if Jim makes $500 million a year and you pay 10%, I'm not great at numbers, so let's say flat tax is 10%, and you pay 10%, okay, you now have $450 million to live.
Yep.
I don't know anybody listening to this, and I will call you an absolute moron to your face if you think you can't live comfortably on $450 million a year. But if I make $30,000 a year and you take 10%, it means I'm making 27. It's hard enough to live on 30, let alone 27.
You just fell into poverty real quick.
Right. Yeah. So it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because the higher up you get, the less it would hurt. And I'm not
Well, and
saying
I think
taxes
part of it
should
is
hurt,
that people
but
think that flat taxes actually they get it for the spirit of what the thought is. Right? The spirit is everyone pays, everyone
right.
is equal. It's no longer this loophole by clause of what you
And
make.
what they don't is a simple fact is if we got rid of all of the loopholes and rich folks literally paid their fair share, everything pretty much everything you could think of in your wildest dreams would be funded.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in the I always think I was in the 30-40% bracket, whatever it was. It's like insane how much of my income was taxed.
Yeah.
now my income is not taxed. I have no income, which is interesting. I did get free healthcare, which is great. But what I loved was I couldn't go after any other government benefits because I have a house. Now nobody knows, who knows how much longer I can pay my mortgage. It's so fucked up.
Crazy.
And a lot of the programs that would have potentially helped me right now, I could really use that help. They're gone. And why they're gone? Because Doge.
Yeah. Which was a complete clusterfuck. All it did turn everything upside down for no real, that's the thing.
It was another distraction while money was taken and things were
It was all big grip. So Jim, since we're on this downward spiral of anger and sadness, who's the baggie this week?
Wow, I gave it to Pete Hegseth when we talked Saturday, and I'm going to leave it there. But I sort of almost feel like Kristi Noem deserves an honorable mention, especially as she's gone on a tirade about Trump and started releasing everything about what's going on. And this has made me also kind of come back to Kristi and go, okay, I sort of like you right now because you're spilling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
All I would say is Bondi and Levitt, start talking the truth because it's coming.
Yeah.
But I'm going to still give it to our bro in the War Department, the man who had way too much joy in declaring war on Iran and getting to walk around with his baseball cap and go into a room and be a defense of a war, and then the military doesn't like it anyways. That's our baggie.
One of the saddest things to me about Pete Hegseth is and you and I are in the same boat with this because we've talked about this. We both love comedy. I love language. I love the turn of a phrase. I love a setup. I love most people consider me a fairly funny guy. I like to make people laugh. That makes me happy. Anytime I hear Pete Hegseth talk, you can see the look on his face. He comes up with these jokes, one-line zings, or whatever, and he's expecting them to land.
The worse than dad jokes.
And they never fucking do. Like when he had all of those generals in the audience and he was just like doing stuff and he'd pause and wait and there'd be crickets and you could see the look on his face was like, fuck, that's funny. Well, we didn't do regime change, but the regime sure changed. And everybody used to look at him like, for real? And you could tell he was so pissed because he wanted people to be like, yeah, you nailed it. And it's like, dude, you're not clever. You're not funny. You can't even do a fucking pull up. And no, please don't challenge me. I can't either, but I'm old. It's a whole other story. But no, yeah. So thank you. That's the baggie of the week. Pete Hegseth.
So then Chuck, as we are nearing our time for the week, given this is the second time of times, what is your happy ending for the week?
Here's your happy ending. Creators of the original party game for horrible people are proving themselves to be anything but horrible, Jim, as they offer customers a formal refund equal to the additional cost they paid for Cards Against Humanity under U.S. President Trump's tariff regime. Via a characteristically snarky, curse-filled announcement on their website, founders of the hugely popular card game, which allow anyone to submit a simple form with proof of purchase of a portion of their money returned if the company ever gets a refund related to the illegal Trump administration tariffs. The company's founders began jumping into political fray last year following the tariff fiasco. Recently, a new web page was created that reads, in a rare example of the American government still kind of functioning, the Supreme Court has finally declared, after waiting a year for no reason, that Donald Trump's obviously illegal tariffs are obviously illegal. Cards Against Humanity is adamant that they themselves never raised their own prices even after the tariffs were applied, but that large retail stores would have done so after buying the game from them. As a result, they believe their customers.
That's a nice one. There are still good companies out there.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't played Cards Against Humanity, listeners, boy, are you missing out. Go get it. Get a version of it now.
Well, and I have a friend, they're not nonprofit, but they give a lot of money to charity. And I have a friend, a very close friend since college, who is very into Cards of Humanity. And evidently, if you buy enough, they will actually make your name one of the cards. So when you pull up one of those crazy ass, Jim would be the answer.
Yeah.
And he's got it. And it's It's just great because you get his name, and we love him to death. He's a funny cat anyway. You get the name, and you just wait for the grossest, nastiest thing. You're like,
Fair enough, right?
another crazy week. Well, another crazy
Yeah.
half week has come and gone, and we'll figure out what.
And we're still here.
Yeah, well, we'll figure out what fresh hell comes next. But we will. I can honestly say I don't think we'll ever run out of things to talk about.
No, and I hope folks are enjoying our conversations and
Mhm.
love to hear your thoughts. Please do give us your feedback. We get a little bit here and there from people, and we'd love to see some more rich engagement. You might be lucky enough for us to say, hey, come on the show and talk about it because,
Right.
we are open to hearing other ideas and opinions. This is not just because we think and that's all we talk about. You think you got a valid reason to talk about something opposite to this, or even to join us in the parade, we're open to talk about that. We're not looking for writers. We're not looking for travelers. We're looking for real, honest to God people who've got something to say,
And
who feel that their voice would add value.
the only caveat I add to that is if we have you on the show, you can tell Jim and I don't scream over each other. We don't do gotcha. Even if you're completely on the other side of the page and you want to make your point, that's absolutely fine. We'd love to
Yeah.
have you here.
Come with facts, come with figures, come with the reality, but be
Facts.
willing to argue about
Right.
it.
Facts and no screaming and no yelling. And we would love that. We'd love to have some people on. That would be absolutely phenomenal.
So there you go. But you got to engage with us. You got to talk to us. We're not going to pull you out of the blue from nothing.
No,
So
no.
don't just email me and say, I have somebody who wants to be on your show, because I get enough of that. And frankly, I'm tired of reading those, and I send them through our match company and say, hey, if you could put them here
Sorry,
if you really want to get it, but I'm not giving your boy the right onto my show.
Jim refuses to read your resumes.
Yeah. Well, if I've learned anything, this is our property. This is our value. We get to say what goes on here.
Agree.
Bend for anybody. And if you're coming to us, then you obviously think we're worth values.
Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, and last thing I'll say, I promise. But yeah, no one's asking anybody to not be who you are in your relationships with your friends and all of that
Right,
kind of stuff.
right.
DEI is all about giving somebody a shot for a job
Right.
that doesn't look like you, but who is qualified. That's all it is. That's all
Yeah.
it is. And Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and all those, they're going to tell you that it's teaching you to hate white people. It's absolute bullshit. I already hate white people.
Yeah, let's say, Chuck, what are you going to do next?
Could resist. Actually, love all people. Love up your family. Walking down the street, hug a complete stranger. You might get a weird look, but we need more love in this world.
Hey, Chuck, I'm reading a new book
Oh, you tell.
called Separation of Church and Hate. And I'm just going to throw that out there. I'll drop some references in the description, but I think this will come into conversation because, boy, it's getting me excited and charged up. Listen, I'm just going through it. Things said last night as I went to the books.
Talk about this next episode.
We will.
You've
But
got.
I'm going to leave you with this one. Jesus was the overachieving orphan child of a brown family with a father who adopted him and had no relation to him, but took all the credit.
On that note, folks, have a great week. We'll see you next.
Yeah, have a good one. Life in the baggage playing out. Have a good one, folks.